Sometimes when you get to a certain level of success, it's inevitable that you're gonna have some enemies, no matter how hard you try to not have said enemies. But in this video, I'm gonna go through with you some people that you need to make sure that along your journey as a Medicare agent in particular, as you grow and become more and more successful, that you do not make enemies with under any circumstances. This video is brought to you by none other than Hire Heroes, you guys. Hire Heroes is your one-stop shop when it comes to virtual staffing and making sure that you have qualified talent with your business. One thing that I love about Hire Heroes, you guys, is they've actually gone through the process already of vetting and making sure that your staff member is well trained to best fit your needs. Whether you need help with social media work, posting things on your accounts, responding to people that send messages to your social media accounts, whether you need help with data entry or a multitude of other things that they're qualified to do, Hire Heroes has got you covered. If you're having trouble finding quality talent and number two, affording to be able to run payroll for that talent, Hire Heroes has got you covered with an affordable alternative to have a virtual assistant working for your business. There's a link down in the description of this video to where you can learn more about getting your own VA through Hire Heroes. I certainly recommend it. They're what we use in our business for all of our virtual assistant needs, and you will want to make sure that you check them out today. Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. I was just having one of my favorite beverages of all time, the tears of my enemies. I have developed an enemy or two over the course of my career. Some of it my fault, some of it just because haters gonna hate, right? Now, in this video, I'm gonna walk through with you a couple of people in particular that you wanna make sure that you don't make enemies with. Now, I don't think it's necessarily realistic to have the mentality or maybe even the thought process that if you're going to be massively successful, that you're not going to have any enemies. You will have enemies no matter what if you reach a certain level of success. If you have absolutely zero enemies, in my opinion, most of the time, there are some examples to where there are exceptions, but exceptions don't disprove the rule. Most of the time, you're going to have enemies through no fault of your own, particularly because there's certain people out there that just want to see you fail and want to see you fall when you reach a certain level of success, okay? Now, I was watching an interview that Patrick Bet-David gave of Valuetainment recently. I had the pleasure of meeting Patrick at an Integrity Marketing event earlier in the summer, and during this interview, Patrick said, choose your enemies wisely. I thought that was such an interesting philosophy because typically you hear from people that you say, avoid having enemies, but Patrick wasn't necessarily saying that. Patrick's a guy that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's an absolute phenom on YouTube. He's, wildly successful in the whole nine yards, Patrick Bet-David. But Patrick Bet-David was essentially making the case that sometimes it's okay to have enemies, and to a certain point, in a certain level of success, enemies are just a cost of doing business when you get to a certain level of success, okay? But you want to make sure that you choose your enemies wisely. He goes on to make the point that a lot of times people are making enemies out of the wrong people. They're making their spouse an enemy. They're making their children an enemy. They're making their business partner an enemy when they're just not choosing their enemies wisely, okay? So outside of those that I just mentioned, I'm going to actually mention some people as a Medicare agent that you just don't want to make an enemy out of at all costs, okay? So let's kind of run through them. The first one is your carriers. You do not want to make an enemy with your carrier partners, your carriers that you contract with, and particularly your carrier reps. You want to make sure that you're on as friendly terms with them as possible and that they look at you favorably and they look at you as a great partner, not a big pain in the ass, and that they look at you as a good investment for them to be able to work with. Why is that? Because if you're on a good, friendly basis with these individuals, you never know where they might end up, no matter what the situation might be. So I've seen people in the past where they're working with a certain carrier rep and maybe they don't like this person too much, let's say. Let's say they just don't feel like this person is getting back to them. They're not very responsible, and they just go off and let this person have it. Maybe they're working for carrier over here, and carrier over here isn't very competitive in the market. Carrier over here is not a big player in your specific area. But I can tell you one thing through my decade plus in the industry, that our industry is smaller than you think. It's a smaller world. it is very common that you see these individuals that have positions of authority with certain carriers, and it might not be one that impacts you too much today, but they move around, right? It's not uncommon for a rep to take another job with another carrier in a year or two. I've known certain carrier reps that have bounced around like crazy. They've worked for 3 or 4 different insurance companies in a particular market as reps in different positions of authority over the course of an 8 to 10 year period. And so you might have to deal with this person or work with this person on an ongoing basis. I've had carrier reps that I have worked with in my own market that then end up working for an FMO that we might have to deal with on a regular basis, an FMO that we might have to do business on a regular basis. Imagine if that bridge was completely burned to the ground, you went off on somebody and you made an enemy out of somebody like that, and then for the next 10 years of your career, they are in positions of authority to where they can purposely not help you if they so chose to. Now, some people understand that business is not personal, and no matter how they feel about you, they might still be willing to help you if you can deliver for them. But not everybody's going to feel that way. And so making an enemy out of somebody is never in your best interest when they work for a carrier, they're a carrier rep, anything like that. You want to make sure that at all costs, you are respectful, you show yourself as an asset. If you take marketing money or support from them, that you deliver and show them that you can be a good team player and put up points on the board for them, the whole 9 yards. So the number one on this list is carriers, carrier reps, and anybody in that world. Make sure that you play nice and you show them that you are a good partner for their carrier. Number 2, organizations that are far bigger and more powerful than you. Let me explain. If there's an organization in your town, let's say you are just getting started in your particular field, and in your town, there is a guy that is the Don Dada in your particular market, right? This guy is the top of the food chain. He's the number one agency. He's got a bunch of agents. He's got a lot of money coming in. He's got a big staff. And he's got a well-oiled machine organization versus you, who's just getting started. Maybe you're working out of your garage or your basement. You don't have a lot of clients yet. Nobody really knows who you are. The worst thing you can do when you have interactions with this particular person, maybe it's at a carrier meeting, maybe it's at a particular top producer event if you start writing business well. The worst thing, in my opinion, you can do is get on that person's bad side. Because why? This person has influence with the carriers. This person has influence in your market, and this person has resources beyond you where they can essentially go out of their way and try to step on you like a bug, okay? You don't pick fights with people that are bigger and stronger than you. That is just schoolyard 101, and in business, it remains the same. So don't pick a fight with Goliath unless you're confident as David that you have a good shot at beating them. Now, it doesn't mean you can't behind the scenes strategize, come up with different tactics, come up with a blueprint and a game plan for how you're going to really disrupt the market. But you can do that without aggressively talking shit to somebody's face. Last but not least, if you have an FMO or an upline and you like working with them, the last thing you want to do is if they make a mistake, if they take a minute to get back to you on something, maybe you send them an email and they lose the email, it falls through the cracks, it's an honest mistake. They work with thousands of agents potentially. I've seen so many agents just go off and rip into their marketer at their FMO, their contact at their FMO, and you don't want to do that either. Because if your FMO looks at you as enough of a liability, they want to work with you. They want your business. They want your contracts. But they will do the bare minimum when it comes to retaining you. They will not go out of their way to help you. This is a relationship business. And when you're contracted with an FMO, it's a relationship. And so if you're with somebody that you like what they bring to the table, you should go out of your way to be reasonable to deal with, friendly to them, and you shouldn't go off on them. I can promise you, I came up in an old school business when everybody I knew except for a couple of people was 60, 65, 70 years old when it came to other agents when I was first getting started in my career. One thing I noticed was a lot of these old school guys had a tendency to go off on people, to rip people. And what did that do? It made them a pariah with everybody that they dealt with. Don't make yourself a pariah with your FMOs, with your carriers, with your biggest competitors. You don't want to be known as a social pariah, okay? So choose your enemies wisely, and these are some individuals that I would recommend not becoming your enemies over the course of your career if you can help it as a Medicare agent. Anyway, guys, did you enjoy this video? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Comment your thoughts down below. Let's have a dialogue. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, the only way I'm going to know if you liked this particular kind of video is if you smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps more people like you find this content who need to see this information. Make sure to subscribe. We put out weekly videos for your benefit and for the growth of your business. And we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and here's to your success and your abundance. Thanks, guys.